Hi everybody, I'm Randy Ridings, and this is the Quadyak Coast to Coast. In 2013, my father and I built a human-powered amphibious velomobile. In 2018, I started a trip from the West Coast in Oregon, headed towards the East Coast. I'm glad to have you with me and hope you follow along to the end.
Hey everybody, Randy Ridings here with Quadyak. I am back at the Ozark Park in Ozark, Arkansas on the 9th of June 2020. Last year I stopped the trip on the beach just 200 yards down. It is June 10th, 2020, day 105 of the trip. I've made 2,850 miles on the trip so far. Right now what I'm going to be doing is doing about a 2-week leg to get down to the Mississippi River. Alright, heading out through the cove. There's a little chop out there, but nothing I haven't seen before. They are opening the lock for me. They're opening the gate for me up there. Looks like I probably dropped about 20 feet. You also might notice just the quantity of water I'm carrying with me. I'm carrying 40 pounds of just water weight this trip. 17 liters of water. Normally my entire load of food and water, everything is about 60 pounds. The boat itself weighs about 140. Then when I load it up, it's about 200. That wraps it up for day one of the 2020 summer trip. Wednesday, the 10th of June, I made 16 miles in a little over 5 hours. Good morning. I've checked my map and I'm in Lake Dardanelle proper. Today's open water. Very little current, no wind to help me. Yesterday was pretty rough. I got sore, my knees hurt, I got sunburn, I had a headache. I got started late. Alright, successful launch, 8:30 in the morning. Probably hang into the main channel just to stay on the safe side. Things that make you go, There are 2 crosses and a cow skull up in that. Okay, second break of the day at 4 hours and 11.7 miles. Never leave the boat, man. Never leave the boat. Water moccasin came swimming down, came right to the boat and investigated the tires. When he started to go up on top of the pontoon, then I stepped out and he went back in the water and got over here and started to circle back to it. Threw a stick in the water near him. That made him scuttle on by. I've gone 24 hours now and I have finished 4 liters of water and 1 liter of Gatorade. If I'm doing 5 a day, that means I can go, 3.5 days before I'll have to re-water somewhere. Now, anywhere I find that I can get water, I'll fill up. So I will have to stop a couple of times. And the reason I'm concerned about it, summer 2020, the coronavirus is still going on. Taking it pretty seriously. I have kind of bad lungs, asthma. I'm hoping to not have to camp anywhere where other people are. Something hit me this winter that I just couldn't shake. Okay, here's my campsite tonight. This wraps up June 11th, 2020. Day 2 of this summer. Day 106 of the whole trip. I ended up making about 20 and a half miles. Good morning. You might notice behind me, the sun hasn't seemed to come up. I woke up about 15 minutes ago. Feel pretty good actually. Way better than I felt going to bed last night, that's for sure. I am 16 miles from the dam and lock. Quick morning this morning, just pack up, throw everything in and go and stop through the heat of the day. Heading towards the Dardanelle Lake Dam and Lock. I have not seen another place I could camp since I left my campground this morning, so I made a good call, making sure I could see sand ahead of me before I moved on down the river. Maybe your worst rest break location ever. Kind of one of those, any port in a storm. I need to watch out for poison ivy in here and snakes. I looked over and caught somebody watching me. That's what I first saw, was that eye. Yeah. Just watching me. And if anybody out there has read The Hunt for Red October, every 10 minutes or so I do a crazy Ivan and clear my baffles. What that means is I veer off a little bit and then back. And I do that so I can scan behind me with this mirror all the way across the lake. And if I do that about every 10 minutes, I won't have a barge sneak up on me. So still heading into the channel that takes me to the dam and locks for Dardanelle. I'm at 13.5 miles, which means I should only have about 2.5 more. But I got a barge over there and it wasn't moving, and then it started moving. He is definitely going right now to my left. I'm not entirely sure where the channel is exactly. No, he's turning. So here's probably the closest I've been to one of these in action. Looks like he's 2 wide and 3 long. See, now I can cut behind him just where I was going, towards that point of land. The name of that one is the David Choked. Here's their waves. They're bigger than a speedboat, but yeah, they are. Woo! Alrighty. Yeah. Nothing this thing can't handle. I'm gonna head over towards that point of rocks. I might actually get to take a break over there if I can get over there. This is probably the wildest place I've ever pulled the Quadyak into. A little backwater here. I could stand up on this flat rock. There's a little bit of shade. In 15 minutes from now, it'll be 2 o'clock. And I think I left the lock at Ozark at about 2 o'clock, which means that I will have done this 52 miles of Lake Dardanelle essentially in 48 hours. The Dardanelle lock at 16.3 miles in 7 hours. And I have pulled the chain right there, and I heard the whistle blow, and I saw some activity down there. Alright, I am in. I am roped off to my floating bollard. Blew the whistle, and they're closing the gate. I think it's file 205 on the Arkansas River, so that's what I've got left. This drop is going to be about 54 feet. Well, they're dropping this thing fast, but they got a long way to drop it. Yeah, look at this. I did not design this way, but this thing fits perfectly where the pontoons bounce off the wall there, and the front wheels bounce off the wall up there. I got a great blue heron that flew over that side. He's eyeballing me over there. Oh, there's a great blue heron, came back over. She's figured out that there's fish that get trapped on that sill. Clever girl. Alright, and we are moving. Good grief. That's a drop there. Well, I made it to my midday break. I've gone right at 20 miles in 11 hours. Took 260 miles to get to the Mississippi. Figured 20 miles a day for 13 days. Can't get out of the Mississippi because it's too high. So I'm going to do this 2 weeks and then take about a 2-week break and then come back and finish up. So a boat like that, if I can see one of his sides, then I know we are not on a collision course. Alright, signing off for 12 June, day 3 of this trip, day 107 of the whole trip. Made it through Lake Dardanelle today, made it through the locks. I did 23 miles in about 12 hours. Good morning. 2 mornings in a row. I've woken up at 5:47. I should be at about river mile 199. Alright. Launch at 7:35 on the 13th. So I've done 3.5 hours in the boat. I've done 14 miles. I'll do another hour and a half, 2 hours, get to the lock. I think there's a store right before it, so maybe I'll just stop there for my midday break. There's places that call themselves a hideaway. They're just mildly difficult to find. And then there's places that you can't tell you're at the right place until you're 50 feet from the turn. I was 50 feet from that tree out there before I realized that this was the inlet. This guy's kind of semi shut down right now because of the flooding, but he had water and coke. This place is a pretty nice little place. Got a little marina in here and a ramp. He said I'm the first kayaker he's seen in 3 years. Alright, I've left my little break area there, and right there is the dam and the lock. When I first met him, I said, if you don't mind, I'm trying to stay away from people, and he said, no, that's fine, this stuff's serious. And that's hitting Arkansas now harder than it ever has. I pulled chain, but I did not hear a horn, which I usually do. I'll give it about 5 minutes. I'll blow my whistle. Okay, it's been 20 minutes now, and I pulled the chain twice. I've blown my whistle twice. Seen nobody. Well, I pulled in this little backwater, and I looked up, and I just happened to catch a guy. He had actually just shown up. There was nobody here. All right, gates are opening. Well, he wasn't messing around. He only opened the gate halfway, started to close it as soon as I got through. So this is the Arthur V. Ormond Lock and Dam, Winthrop, Rockefeller Lake. Over here we have the mating call of the now extinct mastodon. Alright, he's opening the gate. Alright, we're out. And all told, that took about an hour. So that's it for June 13th. I did 26 miles in a little over 11 hours. Good morning, it is June 14th, day 5 of the summer, or 109. Maybe 18 miles from the next lock. Now they're dropping the level even more. Wheels and pontoon on the right side were just resting on land last night. The rest of the boat was in the water. I got launched about 6:30. Alright, I've been going an hour. Made 4¼ miles. So that is a snag. That shows you how they point. So I'm going to try something on this break. Correlate from the phone exactly where I am on the paper map and then count the mileage down. I can see where I'm at there. And I see 60 comes up and takes a hard right there, and the river bends like that. So that is 60 comes up, hard right, river bends like that, which means I am right in around here. I'm about 161.5. Lock 8, which is at 155.9. 5.6 miles. I'm at 13.1 miles now. At 5.6, which would put me at 18.7 miles. Okay, I'm at 18.5, so I would say that that's about 1/10 of a mile away. Told me he's got a couple of boats coming up, and so it'd be a couple of hours. Now, I can just come over here, take my midday break, and meanwhile, there's a park right here. So there's one there, and another one behind it. Alright, this is the closest I've been to one of these. You can see you got the two guys on each side. They're like corner guards. Now, each one of these is called a barge. The boat is actually called a line boat or a tow boat. Look at that fit in there. So this is the Bruce Oakley. Alright, it is 15:01. He's in now. Near this point was the site of the Toadsuck ferry landing. Ferry service across the Arkansas River. Early type boats were made of wood and pushed by poles. Later the boats became mechanized and were constructed of metal. Legend of name stems from a saloon that once was located on the opposite side of the river. Here he comes. And so there he goes at 3:50. It took him right at an hour to get through this. Grief, there's some current in here. Right, I am in Toadsuck Ferry, locking in. Timing worked out perfect for me waiting for those two barges. Alright, they are opening the doors. I asked him if he had a map from here down, and he said that they lost all that in the flood. This is where those barges were entering the lock, so I was standing right up there filming. Now the lock behind me, shift down. Well, the first place I landed was a little muddy. I think that's signing it off. I did 28.3 miles in about 12.5 hours. Well, when I set up the tent, this whole hilltop area was all just scuffed up. It was mostly dog tracks. I just heard a coyote pack go off. Hopefully this isn't like coyote pack hangout. Those weren't dog tracks. Those were coyote tracks. Coyotes almost never attack humans when they're starving or cornered. It's one of those things that people are scared of that doesn't actually happen. Let's hope I'm not the one weird coyote statistic. Good morning. It's June 15th, day 6 of this summer, 110 of the entire journey. I am on my first rest break, and I am 15 or 20 miles from a lock and 25 or 30 miles from Little Rock. Alright, so I've gone down the river for an hour and a half, and I took an hour and a half break. I think I've seen this one before. It's called the David Choate. I'm about 10 miles to the lock, and then about another 7.5 to the lock. My original plan sticks. Get to the lock, get through the lock, camp. That puts me going through Little Rock tomorrow midday. Wait, what is that? Right in front of my boat? Oh, that's right. 3,000 miles from Newport, Oregon to here. Actual days sitting in the boat, I've done better than 30 miles a day. Notice how this marker is sitting straight up and down? And there is no wake around it at all. That's because I have lost the current. That was a hard 5 miles. No wind, and the sun was just beating down. I have company in the form of a very big, very dead fish with a lot of flies on it. Well, there's good news and there's bad news. I can see the red warning signs on the dam past that highway bridge down there. Still a long ways away. I think that's close to 2 miles from here. I kind of forgot that this is where I was going to get out. This is bike trail up here. I quit researching it when I figured out I would just do water travel this time. I was going to take the bike trail around Little Rock, like goes on either side of the river, I believe, all the way through town. It's pretty cool. A bike riding bridge over the top of the lock right there. This is at the Murray Lock, which is just a few miles upriver from Little Rock, Arkansas. This is a trailhead for the Big Dam Bridge because it's a big bridge over a dam. It's like 5:36 in the afternoon. I might go down a mile or two, but I can't go down too far because I don't want to get into the city. That goose has fishing line around its legs. I don't think there's any way I could get close enough to him to help him. I might try. If I can't keep up with another group. He let me get about 6 feet away, and then he turned and headed into the water, and he wouldn't let me get any closer. I got low and talked soft, and he never got aggressive at all. He flew in here, so he has to be able to fly. But here's one of the line boats or tow boats. That's one without anything to push. So that's the Jobeth Janouche. I looked over with my binocular and I could see one of the deckhands looking over here with a pair of binoculars, so I waved at him, he waved back. I might be getting kind of well known. I think I'm the only kayaker doing the river this year. So that wraps it for Monday the 15th, day 6 of this trip, day 110 of the entire trip. I did 24.6 miles today. I'm just below the Murray Lake Lock and just above Little Rock, Arkansas. Good morning. And today's goal is pretty much just to get through Little Rock. My knee started hurting yesterday, and so I'm going to baby it a little bit today. So I'm looking at maybe a 15-20 mile day. It should be about mile marker 125. I'm going to about 20 or 25, so I got like another 100 miles, and I got a week to do it. It's going to be another beautiful day. It looks like, mid-80s. I'm just kind of hoping I get this cloud cover all day and not have to, worry so much about the sun. All right, launch at 7:43. The little sandbar buddy came back. He's kind of a permanent resident here, which is why he's probably not that afraid of me. He's probably fairly well habituated to humans at this point. Here's a good close-up of the walls they build for flow control. I call this riprap. I'm not sure if that's a technical word for it, but I've heard it called that. Floods will hit them, but they won't take this stuff out. They'll end up going over the top of them. And then they have trees planted in them. And the roots, I think, help tie everything together. This water was 20 feet higher. These trees probably have debris 15 feet up in them. They live through that stuff. I'm still quite a few miles away, but I came around the corner and I see the skyscrapers of what has to be downtown Little Rock. And spotted the Capitol building. They would have a view right up the river at all times. This is a sunken barge. The top rail is a line of railroad track. They build these things tough. They're welded to metal sheeting. You let one get away in a flood and get sunk. I don't know if there's much you can do about it after that. I have the choice of being out in the current in the wind and waves, or going much, much slower, but being out of the wind and waves over here. So I am now downtown Little Rock. So this is the drawbridge, railroad bridge. They can pick up this span here. So how many bridges in a row we got here? 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 bridges in a row within half a mile. Because this river's set up for barge traffic, there's going to be one good clear channel all the way down through them. Oh, I found a nice place. Quadyak's right down there. I've been going like 2 hours 45 minutes. I've done about 6 miles. People who know Little Rock will know where I'm at. Look both ways before you cross the street, Randy. Yeah, I think I'll at least go part way over and get near that submarine. Submarine 394, and it's flying a American and Chinese flag. So we're talking about the lift bridges before. There's one that's in the up position. Oh no. Oh my goodness. So there's somebody walking on that. They have turned this into a walking bridge. How cool is that? So bicyclists can get in the elevator and go, I couldn't fit in this. Alright, Little Rock, I really like your infrastructure. Arkansas is really putting money in bicycling and walking infrastructure. This is the kind of things that every city ought to be doing. It gets your community outside, which makes them happier and healthier. And then there's this bridge, which is another raised railroad bridge that's going to turn into a walking bridge. I think I'm about out of Little Rock proper. I think I'm actually on the Air Force Base. The end of their runway is right there. If I put my oar in there and turn it sideways, I can get myself stopped, because right at these walls there's a lot of current coming around both sides. Over here we have the Corps of Engineers line boat, the Shorty Baird. I'm here at 16.7 miles in 8.5 hours. So this is the David D. Terry Lock and Dam. Gates are closing. Well, we dropped about 15 feet and it was 17 miles, so it's still close to a foot a mile. Gates are opening and I'm on my way out of here in a minute. The sun's over there, which means I'm going to get across and find a sandbar on. I think I might be seeing turtle tracks. But yeah, it's all it's all like this. Can't camp on this. I wait half an hour, get back in. I got an hour and a half. I know I can find something better than this. It's hard to change your way of thinking when you're tired. The goal isn't to do another hour and a half. The goal is to pick the next good spot. Okay, I found a place. It's in one of these bays. There's some flat sand right up there. That wraps it up for June 16th. I made 20.6. I made it through Little Rock. Good morning. It is the 17th of June, day 8 of this summer, and 1/12 of the entire trip. I've got about 19 miles to the next lock. Sometimes tracks tell a pretty interesting story. Here's where something pulled itself along, scrambled up this bank right here. Who is this? Well, that's Mr. Raccoon coming in to find what that other creature left behind, which was a nest of turtle eggs. Another one dragged itself up here, so it's got eggs there. So this is an egg laying area. Alright, I've done 12 miles in 5.5 hours. Came into this pretty fast to make this tiny little beach here and hit a rock. Looking at trash pandas. Hi buddy, you're alright. You're okay. All this over here is deciduous trees, elms and the oaks and the maples. Over here is pine. It's a southern tree. The next big town down, which is only maybe 20 miles away, is Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Never really put that together. These are bluffs and those are pines. Kind of now really in the south, not the Midwest. And it's opening. That was really quick. So, okay, that one kind of scared me. Water started going down and my floating bollard did not. When it got to a couple 3-4 feet, I was getting away from it, because even that, I mean, that thing weighs a ton. This is the Colonel Charles D. Maynard Lock and Dam, dam number 5. Here's a shot of the door up close. It meets up with the other one on the other side. They come together a little bit of an angle to hold the force of the water, called a miter sill. To avoid a repeat of last night, I'm going to try to cut pretty much straight across today. These light and dark colored bars are making it hard to tell what the terrain was like out here. I do have a sand shaping tool in the form of some paddles. I'm setting up here. Good morning. It is June 18th, which is day 9 of the trip, or day 113 of the whole trip. I am just downriver from Lock 5, which means I am about 20 miles from the Pine Bluff locks. Alright, successful launch at just before 8 o'clock in the morning. You gotta watch it out here. There's like a minefield of little reefs. I just looked down and saw my watch roll over 2 miles and 40 minutes at the exact same moment while reading 3 miles an hour. Yes, you are averaging 3 miles an hour. You are going 3 miles an hour. You've made 3 miles an hour for the last 40 minutes. Exactly. Like to the second. I'm making a mile every 20 minutes. I have 20 miles to go. That's 400 minutes. Divide that by 60 minutes. And that is 6 hours and 40 minutes. That's how much time I have to keep my butt in the seat at 3 miles an hour today to make the next lock. So there's some black and white signs there that say this area is restricted by orders of the commanding officer, which means that's military stuff over there. In theory, I could go there anyway because I have access to military bases, although you're supposed to go through the gate. But then there's a red and white sign back there that says impact area, so yeah, no. This is the Pine Bluff Arsenal, and it's mostly closed down. Alright, I've done 8 miles in 3 hours and 45 minutes. I'm going to enjoy the world's smallest shady beach. I think what we got here are some people living in a van down by the river. I don't think you can legally own that land. It should be bridge easement. Well, the marine is right there, but it does not look like it's open. It looks pretty destroyed from the flood. Well, I'm going to take a little break in shade because it's 15 and a half miles now. So a boat was coming out from near that marina, and he said there was nothing open there. So I ain't even going to bother. Alright, there he is coming underneath. 3 wide, 3 long it looks like. That's that Joe Beth Janouche again. I'm trying to see if they're bringing that bridge back down. There are tracks, there are pylons. It's not an abandoned bridge. Are they bringing that down? Yeah, they are. So it's an active rail line, otherwise they would just leave it up. Well, this is something I've never seen before. The gate is actually just open. This should be lock 4. And yep, he's dropped me already. I finally got up on top of one of the locks. Forgot to bring my camera with me. Gentleman up there let me come up and fill up all my water bladders, which should last me to the end of this trip. As soon as I get out there, I'm going to cut over the other side. Now there was a park over there, and yeah, the flood took it out. And they're releasing so little water that I aimed straight across, and I'm just about going straight across. My eyes did not deceive me. I thought I saw flat ground over here, and I do. I'm going to pull this way up because I don't worry about these waves if they got any worse taking the boat away. Alright, that wraps it up for Thursday the 18th of June. I made 22.1 miles in about 11 and a half hours. Made it past lock 4, which is right there. Got 16 miles to the next lock, and then like 25 or so miles after that is my endpoint. Well, when I went to bed last night, that's where the Quadyak was sitting. The Quadyak is not there anymore. The water has come up at midnight. I decided to look out and check. Those waves are now hitting the lines on my tent. I was 20 feet from the water's edge. The Quadyak was out there, turned sideways up against this kind of steeper bank of sand and half submerged. I spent the next hour getting it here. It was turned sideways, waves were crashing into it. I got it halfway down where I could start to move it. I kept trying to pull it up. I've got to get all the sand out of it, and I'm also going to have to go through and throw out a bunch of food because that entire food compartment was full of water. So I think I have a contender for the worst night on the Quadyak trip. How do you clean up after a mess like this? I've started with the food, so I've emptied that entire front nose out. This line and stuff right here is the total loss. One morning that I want the sun, it's not here. What I'm hoping is the sun comes up pretty soon, starts drying stuff off. Found my trowel, just scooping sand out. What's amazing is how much sand. That's what I've cleaned out so far. Get the sand out, get the seat covered up. That's all cleaned out and repacked. Not as bad as it could have been, although I don't know if there's any mechanical issues yet. I'm about cleaned up and about ready to pack back up. I got 16 miles to the next lock. The boat is actually cleaner than when I started this trip. Leaving lock 4 about 10 o'clock in the morning. The only pain medication I brought was Tylenol PM, which has ephedrine, which knocks you out. If you want to take Tylenol PM in the middle of the day and you're already exhausted, what do? You have your second cup of coffee. Because 2 wrongs definitely make it right. Could this day get any weirder? So this is the 3rd stop I've made in half a mile, over an hour, because I stopped and had my break, and then I stopped at the ramp and I threw some trash away, and then I pulled out and saw a barge coming and pulled right back in and stopped. That there's the Miss Alex. You got a bass boat out there. I got a trolling motor on front and a gas motor on back, and they're still paddled out of the way of that boat instead of using the trolling motor. I might be involved in a rescue here. Good grief, could this day get any worse? There's a couple of guys in a boat pinned up against those things. Had me try to come out and help them, and I tried. Then I got pinned up against them. I could not get off of their boat. Some unbelievable current coming through those wooden uprights. If I'd just back right up to them and throw them a rope, I could have pulled them off of there, I think. Meanwhile, the guy in the back of the boat was working on the trolling motor and switched batteries on it and got it running. So they didn't need me after all, but I tried. Just went through lock 4. I'm gonna go down half a mile or so, get on the side, get some sandbar, camp for the night. All right, that wraps it for the 19th of June. I made about 18.3 miles. Still have not locked in a ride. I'm getting out at Highway 165 in Pendleton. Now I'm nervous, so I pulled way up. This time I pinned it in just to be safe. Good morning. This is June 20th, day 11 of summer's trip, 1:15 of the entire trip. I was worried about the kayak floating away last night. I put that little marker in to show where the water level was so I could look out and see if it was coming up. The opposite happened. I have about 26 miles to my takeout point and 2 days to get there. Lunch on the morning of the 20th at 8:30 in the morning. So I'm on my second break, and I was wrong about the current. I've done 10 miles in 3.5 hours, and that includes 2 breaks. I am cruising along most of the time over 4 miles an hour. Alright, well that wraps it up for Saturday the 20th. I made 17.5 miles. I'm about 8 or 9 miles from Pendleton, where I'm going to end. It is 21st of June, day 12 of this summer, day 116 of the whole trip. It is Father's Day. I'm on a sandbar about 9 miles from Pendleton. I don't have a ride back, but if everything comes together today, I'll get there, find a ride, get back to my car, get home in time to spend some Father's Day time with my dad and my daughter. It's going to be very little filming today because my battery's just about dead. Well, I made it to Pendleton, Arkansas. That is the Arkansas River. That is Highway 165. The reason I stopped here is because I wasn't sure whether I was going to continue down the river to the Mississippi or go by road. Got the Quadyak stored. I'm waiting on a ride. Made 10.5 miles today. I did 248 miles in 13 days. The total mileage on the trip now is 3,200. I can come back here and head down 23 more miles to the Mississippi and then cut over to the Natchez Trace, or get right on this road right here. It looks like I'm going to do the next part in 3 legs, essentially one to Jackson, Mississippi, next one to Pascagoula, and then on out to St. Augustine. I've essentially been on the Arkansas now for the end of the first summer, all of the second summer, and all of what I've done so far on the third summer. And almost 1,000 miles out of 3,000 has been just on this river right here. Temperature dropped about 20 degrees. The wind's going about 30 miles an hour. Yeah, there it is. Man, am I glad I got this trip finished right in. Well, my ride went from coming tomorrow, coming Wednesday, and then they read that it was just me. They were thinking they needed a truck, so now they're on their way now. They're supposed to be here in 15 minutes.
Join me in the next video where I post the next leg of this trip. You can also follow along on the Quadyak's Facebook page and check out my other Quadyak videos in the other playlist that shows how we built it and other trips I've done with it. I filmed about 100 hours this summer of this trip, and I'm not even done yet. If you want to see all of it, you can visit my Patreon page, or if you just want to support me and the trip and my videos and future projects, please check that out. Put a link below so you can find that and support me. I hope you do. Thank you very much. I'm Randy Ridings, and this is the Quadyak Coast to Coast Trip.